My family and I live in a nice area, in a pretty nice house, and everything's great. Your average American dream, I guess you could say. We were all very close, and genuinely a very happy family. Me, my sister, my 2 brothers, and of course, our parents. Here's my story of what happened on the worst night of all of our lives. It was 11 o'clock at night on a school night in the middle of the week. I was sleeping, or I was close to it at least, as I had school the next day. My dad stays up later than everyone else and watches TV in the living room and does whatever he does. He works from home and runs a very successful online business, so he doesn't have to wake up super early for work every day. My mom doesn't have to work because my dad makes a lot of money and is able to take care of us all, but she usually goes to bed before everyone else. She likes her alone time, reading in bed and just doing her thing, like whatever moms do. She wakes up early every morning and makes us breakfast and also takes us to school so we don't have to ride the bus. Anyways, around 11 o'clock on this specific night when we were all asleep, besides my dad that is, he was the only one that was awake. And it's a good thing he was, because it's entirely possible that things could have gone a lot worse than they did had he been asleep. Somebody rang the doorbell, and my dad said he hesitantly approached the front door and looked out the peephole, but there was no one there. He told us and the police that at that point he thought it was just some crazy kids just trying to ding-dong ditch us, because it used to happen a lot at our old house, I guess. I don't really remember that, because I would have been really young, but that's just what he was thinking at the time. So I think he brushed it off as just that, while also taking the extra precaution by being aware and not letting his guard down. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again, but this time he practically ran to the door. But when he got there, this time much more frustrated, he opened the door immediately and was completely blown away by what he saw. There was a lady in her late 40s, standing 5 feet or so in front of the door, with a decent-sized knife in her hand. She was shaking and apparently whispering under her breath. My dad couldn't make out what the hell she was saying, but he yelled at her and told her to leave. Then he slammed the door and locked it. Then he grabbed us kids and took us all to our parents' room. And then he instructed my mom to call the police and let them know we had someone on our property with a knife that was trying to break in. He told us to stay put and to lock the door, to not open the door under any circumstance whatsoever unless he said the key word. The key word was love, and if he said that meant we needed to let him in. He made it very clear to not open the door unless he said that, no matter what. My dad grabbed his 12 gauge and his 9mm handgun and waited for the police in the living room. A few minutes later, after pacing back and forth, someone smashed through a window in the dining room. My dad rushed over there and immediately shot him in the head with his handgun as he was lunging towards him with a machete. At this point, not only was he freaking out, but we were all freaking out. Putting it like that, though, is an understatement, because we had no idea what was going on. I tried to run out there to make sure he was okay, but my mom held me back and yelled at me and told me we needed to listen to Dad, and reassured me that he was okay and that he wouldn't let anything happen to us. Originally, my dad thought it was only the woman, but when the man broke in through the window and he shot him dead in the dining room, he started to freak out 100 times harder. Not only because he just killed someone, but because he realized that there could be more people trying to break in. But he kept his cool the best he knew how to. The police showed up not much longer after that. They actually found someone else that was on our property as well, whom my dad hadn't seen at all. But we were all 100% positive that he had something to do with it as well. He also had a weapon, so that pretty much guarantees that he was in on it with them. They never found the woman who rang the doorbell though, which makes us very uncomfortable and anxious that she might come back for revenge and come back with other people this time, with guns or something. We've all been extremely paranoid since. My dad didn't get in a single ounce of trouble though, as it was deemed in court that he had a right to bear arms to protect himself and that he acted only in self-defense. My dad didn't let us kids come out until they took the man's body away and cleaned up most of the dining room of all the blood. My parents spoke to the police for over an hour and we had to stay in their room the whole time. An officer even came in there to talk to us to get our side of the story, to get as much information as possible. My dad ended up redoing the whole kitchen because there were way too many blood stains in so many different places that it was just too much to clean up. None of us used the dining room until it was redone, but we all saw the aftermath. It was a grim and very dark reminder of what happened. My dad killed a man, but he only did it to protect us. He hasn't been the same since, and I can't imagine what it would be like to kill someone, even though he deserved it. Psychologically, I'm sure it's very damaging. It's a good thing we all have each other, and that my dad has a good support system and a family that loves him dearly. I was watching TV in my room, probably about to doze off soon, and then I heard the doorbell ring. It was like 10 o'clock at night, so it was very unusual to have someone ringing your doorbell at this time, of course. I sat up in a panic and woke my husband up. He wanted to go have a look outside, but I told him we should just look at the Ring camera app instead, so that's what we did. I pulled the app up on my phone, but there was no one there. As weird as it was, there wasn't much we could do, so we laid back down for a bit and continued talking about it. My husband said I should go back to sleep, and that he'll stay awake for a few, and that he'll keep his eyes peeled for anything suspicious. I fell asleep on his lap, and it only felt like a minute or two had passed when I woke up to my husband practically sprinting to the door. Someone was at the door again, but whoever it was gone before he got there. John, my husband, decided to put his slippers on and have a quick look outside to see if whoever it was somewhere hiding around the house. Well, he couldn't find anyone, nor did he see or hear anything that felt even remotely suspicious at all. When my husband came back inside, he was pretty much fully convinced it was the neighbor kids again, trying to mess with us. He said if it happens again that we should just ignore it, because we were giving them exactly what they wanted by involving ourselves in the situation. We agreed that we would talk to the parents the next morning about what they were doing. We'd already talked to them before when we caught these kids red-handed once last summer. We thought it was going to be over with after the first time and that they learned their lesson. In the moment, that was the only thing that I could think of, and that it was them again. I wish it would have been them. Something as harmless as that was nothing compared to what happened that night. We both fell asleep shortly after and awoke one last time to somebody banging on our bedroom window. It scared the hell out of us, and we both jumped out of bed again because it was much louder than the doorbell ringing. The window was only a few feet from our bed, and they were banging on it really hard, repeatedly, at a very slow, steady pace, over and over again. Okay, enough is enough, I said. I called the police, and I followed my husband outside to see what the hell was going on. There was a guy standing by our bedroom window outside, almost completely naked. He was only wearing underwear, no shirt, no shoes, or socks, or anything. When we came around the corner of the house, he just stood and stared at us. He had this look on his face that I will never forget, like an empty look on his face. It was like there was nothing behind his eyes at all. "Hey, get out of here. The cops are on their way," my husband said. He turned around and started running through my backyard. But then he stopped and picked up my son's baseball bat, who wasn't home at the time. He was at his friend's house for the night. But the strange man picked his bat up off the ground and then turned around again, slowly started walking towards us. We ran back inside because we weren't going to try and put up a fight versus someone with a damn bat. He started hitting all of our decorations around the house and destroying our property. He even cut himself with something, I think. Or I don't know, but he was bleeding really bad from his arm, and he wrote the word "kill" in our living room window in his own blood. Then he continued walking around the perimeter of the house, smashing every window that he could reach. The cops showed up while he was doing this, and he tried to run away, but they caught him with no problem at all. They tased the hell out of him too. Apparently the man was on drugs, and he had escaped from a mental hospital earlier in the day that was only 10 minutes away from us. The whole thing was absolutely insane, and we think about it all of the time. Some people don't even believe us when we tell them this story. I wish it didn't happen, but it did. My husband and I both have our own handguns now, and he has a shotgun that he keeps in his safe for protection. as soon as our son turns 16, we will be getting him familiar with how to use them. That way he can protect himself too if it ever came down to a life or death situation. My parents went out of town one weekend for a mini vacation. I know they went to a casino and whatever else they did, I don't know. I was home alone though because I'm an only child. This happened last year when I was 15. This is a little embarrassing for me to admit, but since I don't have to show my face and you won't ever know who I am, I'll tell you. I was nervous to stay home alone. I was kind of scared, you could say, about being home alone the whole night and the whole weekend. I'm not sure if that's normal for a 15-year-old or not, because my parents didn't seem to think it was a big deal at all, even though I told them about my anxieties. If anything were to happen to me, they were a good 30 minutes away, so the cops would definitely be the first I would call. I was sleeping peacefully for I don't even know how long. It was probably a couple hours at least. I awoke to my mom blowing my phone up. She had texted me over 10 times, along with my dad as well. They called back to back repeatedly until I picked up. Luckily, I ended up hearing my phone go off and it finally woke me up. And I'm really glad it did before something horrible happened. I was in a very deep sleep, and despite my anxiety, I was out cold. Generally, I'm not an easy person to wake up. I never wake up when I hear my phone going off. Whether it's an alarm or someone calling me, 90% of the time, I simply just don't hear it. I even sleep with my phone directly next to my head to help ensure I hear it, but still, it never really helps much. I picked up the phone, and my mom was hysterical, and she was practically yelling at me, asking if I was okay, and when I told her I was okay, she started crying. She said someone was at her house, like a stranger. She said she got a notification on the Ring Doorbell app, and that her and my dad both saw someone standing at our front porch, crouched down, looking directly at the camera. She said that my dad and her were coming home, and they were still 20-ish minutes away. She said that my dad called the police as well, and that they were on the way too, and that hopefully they will be there in only a few minutes. I started having a panic attack, and it took me a minute to fully grasp the situation at hand, because it was just so bizarre. It kind of felt like I was dreaming for a minute, but I came to quickly when I heard knocking on my bedroom window. I ran straight to both, the front door and the back door, to make sure they were locked. Then I ran to my mom's room with a knife, and I hid in her walk-in closet behind some clothes. The man got inside through an unlocked window that I had no idea was unlocked. I heard the man walking around the house with his big boots on the hard tile floors. And I guess he had a backpack with him that he was using to put all of the stuff in that he was attempting to steal. He took some of my old iPhones from my room, along with my PlayStation 5 and a couple of other things. And then I heard someone open the door to my mom's room. I was hoping and praying that it was the police, but I just knew it wasn't. Every step he took, it felt like he was getting closer to the closet. My heart rate increased so dramatically that I legit thought I was going to pass out. That was when he knocked, ever so slightly, on the closet door. When he did that, it sent a shiver up my spine, and I knew I was in trouble. I knew I had to do something, because as soon as he opened that closet door, I knew he would find me. It just wasn't hidden good enough. I figured it was either me or him, and I wasn't going to give up, no matter how much I wanted to. I stood up, and as I did, he opened the closet door. That's when we heard the police sirens in the distance. He was easily double my size, so it was very easy for him to overpower me, even though I had a knife. He grabbed my arm when I tried to swat at him with it. Then he pushed me onto the bed and hit me on the side of my head. He grabbed my parents' safe that was in the closet, and he ran out of the front door. He got in his car and sped off. But as he was exiting the neighborhood, 3 cops were right on his tail. They chased him down for over 10 miles until he finally swerved off of the highway and crashed into a sign. He was stuck in the car and unable to move, so now he was pinned down and there was nothing he could do. They arrested him and now he's in jail, still awaiting trial. He's an older guy, so I really don't think he's ever going to get out of prison. One of the police officers stayed at home with me while we waited for my parents to help calm me down, so he could get as much information as possible. My parents arrived only after a brief 5 minutes of talking to the officer, and they ran to me and hugged me with tears drizzling down their faces. It's been over a year now, and I don't really ever stay home alone very often anymore. But when I do, it's really rare, and it's never for more than an hour or two. I just can't wait to get the word about his sentencing. I know he will be locked up for a very long time. I just hope they don't take it easy on him, and I hope they give him the maximum penalty. I mean, after all, he completely deserves it.